Well, the For Meyiwa murder trial, that's rather becoming like opening Pandora's box, it seems. A myth within a myth. As this matter progresses, it just seems to become more and more confusing. But today, yet another witness is due to take the stand as the court tries to determine the admissibility of confessions made by two of the accused. eNCA reporter Manqoba Mchunu, of course, is joining me, and to cross, of course, to him, importantly understanding what's happening with today's trial. Manqoba, a very warm good morning to you, colleague. Let's talk about this trial within a trial and at least reflect on how it has gone so far. What have you heard in court?
Well, certainly, Tumelo, we're expecting more witnesses to take the stand this morning as the trial within a trial continues here at the North Gauteng High Court. And of course, you recall, Tumelo, that there are two issues that are in dispute between the defense as well as the state. And one of the issues is around the alleged confessions that were made by two of the accused, that being accused number one, Muzikau Sibiya, as well as accused number two, Bongani Ntanzi. And from the evidence that we heard last week from the first state witness to be called to the stand. This was a retired police colonel who took the stand, who testified about the day that he had taken an alleged confession from Muzikau Sibiya on the 30th of May in 2020. And this is the day that he had been arrested. We understand that he had then been taken to the Deep Kloof police station, where that particular confession was then made in front of Colonel Nhlanganyelwa Mboto, who was the Justice of Peace at that particular point. So he detailed how the procedure that he had followed when extracting this particular confession, saying that he had read Muzikau Sibiya his rights, and he had also noted that according to him, he had not been assaulted or coerced into making this particular statement. And this is very important because we know that for that particular confession to be admitted as evidence in court, it will need to be shown that it was not made under any duress and that there was no force or any compelling that was made as far as extracting that particular statement is concerned. And what Mboto told this court is that, in fact, Sibiya had made this particular confession voluntarily of his own will at that particular point, and that there was no assault that had taken place. And this is contrary to what he has claimed. Muzikau Sibiya, he told the court that he had in fact been assaulted and that he had made this particular statement under duress, and that he had been suffocated by the police. In fact, he says he had been assaulted 3 times prior to that particular confession been taken by police. And this is very crucial because one of the tests that will be applied as far as whether those alleged confessions will be accepted as evidence in court is whether or not there was any duress or any compelling that had gone as far as extracting those particular confessions are concerned. We know that the state wants to use these as evidence in court and wants the court to admit these confessions as evidence in court. And so this is what this trial within a trial is all about, the admissibility of these particular confessions. Should they be accepted as evidence in court, or should they not be accepted as evidence? And why this is important, and of course the test that will be applied to this, is whether or not they were extracted lawfully from these accused or not. And the other issue, of course, is the issue around the pointings out, which we understand happened obviously days after those confessions had been taken, and we're expecting one of the officers who was conducting that particular pointing out of the crime scene to also take the stand. But of course the defense are saying that they are disputing these confessions. They are saying that they were extracted unlawfully, and that both accused at the time had been assaulted and been coerced and in fact tortured into making those particular statements. So the court will then have to decide whether or not they were extracted lawfully, and if so, they'll then make a decision as to whether these will be admitted as evidence in court, which would strengthen the state's case, Tumelo, if that goes that direction, because now it means that the state will then be able to use those particular statements or confessions as part of its evidence to link these accused to the murder of For Meyiwa. So we're expecting those proceedings to continue today. Of course, they'll also have a bearing on the main trial trial, the decision that comes out of this particular trial within a trial will affect the main trial, given that the state, if at all they are granted that these confessions can be used as evidence, they will then be able to pinpoint or tie this particular accused to the murder of Senzo Meyiwa. Of course, their case has been largely circumstantial, and they'll be requiring, of course, evidence like this in order to strengthen their case and to be able to prove beyond reasonable doubt that these other accused that were involved in Senzo Meyiwa's murder back in 2014. So we're expecting those proceedings to continue with more witnesses being called to the stand.
Manqoba, exactly what's the time we're expecting court to resume?
Well, Tumelo, expecting court to resume at 10 o'clock this morning, and we understand that the first witness that will be called this morning is a colonel that actually conducted the pointing out and had taken the statement of the pointing out. That pointing out, we understand, was done by accused number one, where he had gone back to the crime scene to point out exactly where and what happened on the 26th of October in 2014. We understand it will also be followed by a photographer who also took photos of that particular pointings out, and we understand more witnesses are also expected to be called. We hear that also a magistrate is likely to be called as part of the evidence. She also took some of those confessions, we understand, from one of the accused, and presumably in this case it is accused number two, Bongani Ntanzi, who we understand had made two statements back in 2014. So we're expecting those proceedings to begin at 10 o'clock this morning, with a police officer expected to take the stand.
All right, we'll be sure to, of course, give our viewers live visuals of those court proceedings, but also the very latest coming from the next witness testimony out at the Senzo Meyiwa trial within a trial, we understand. Of course, Manqoba Mchunu, thank you so much, colleague, for giving us this update.